Everybody can see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's begin. Oh, sorry, today is April 22nd. Oh, right, yeah, I was supposed to present this.
You started.
Last Monday. So today I'm going to discuss North Korea and North Korea's nuclear issues. Maybe that's a problem. So first of all, I want to ask you, where is North Korea, by the way? Any answers or comments from students?
It's between China and South Korea.
Yeah, exactly. It's between China and South Korea, and Andrew Dong makes a really great answer, North of Korea. That's right. So let's see, where is North Korea? Everybody can see those Google Maps?
No.
No? Can you
No,
see?
it can. It's loading.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This beautiful planet is the Earth where we live, right? And this is the United States, and we live in the Bay Area. And all the way out, there is Korean Peninsula, Japan, China. North Korea is here, north of Korea, north of South Korea, and between China and South Korea. So inside North Korea, Pyongyang is the capital city of North Korea. So can you read the Pyeongseong, Suncheon, Pyongyang?
Yes.
Can you see that? Yeah. Yongbyon is nearby Anju here in this area. And there are a lot of nuclear related facilities nearby Pyongyang, Suncheon in this area. And there is near Suncheon, there is the biggest uranium mine of North Korea. So North Korea has a very rich uranium repository. So nearby Suncheon, Dokcheon, Gacheon, this area has a lot of uranium ores. Okay, this is Pyongyang. If you see, this is a Grand People's Study House. So this Broadway is the way that North Korea is holding their massive parade. So missiles are passing through this way, and in the Kim Il-sung Square, there are a lot of people are, holding some cards. So they are playing card sections, and sometimes they dancing together, whatever. Some they are doing some strange things here.
And Suk, is there shelter in place in Pyongyang? Do you know?
That's a secret. I don't know, actually. I heard that there are several shelter in place. So I don't know, actually.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Just thought I'd ask.
So this is North Korea. Any questions here, students? Or no? Okay, let's go back to our slides. So today we will discuss nuclear North Korea's nuclear weapons and their motivations and their goals and strategies of developing and utilizing, employing nuclear forces. So my first question is, why does nuclear North Korea matter for the United States, for South Korea, for Japan? One reason is that North Korea's primary national security policy is, developing nuclear weapons and employing nuclear forces against the United States and South Korea, Japan. And the nature of North Korea's nuclear weapons are defensive as well as offensive. So North Korea could use its nuclear weapons to coerce South Korea and the United States and Japan. And so thereby, North Korea's nuclear weapons are a direct threat to the US in terms of will, its power, its military power, and capability, its resolution. So US needs to protect itself as well as it needs to protect South Korea and Japan from North Korean threats. These are major US allies in East Asia. And if US is not able to protect those countries from North Korean threats, then the US-led some regional order and international order will be weakened or will be shaking. And another issue is that US needs to keep those allies from nuclear proliferation. So if US is not able to protect those states, those countries from North Korea's nuclear threat, then these countries, South Korea or Japan, might try their own nuclear possession or nuclear development. And lastly, North Korea is importing and exporting weapons of mass destruction or small arms weapons to other countries like Syria, Libya, Yemen, and other, Iran. So it is important to, deal with nuclear North Korea in order to make better US national security and international security. Any questions? No? So today I'm going to discuss some theoretical framework behind the nuclear proliferation, and I will discuss the history of North Korea's nuclear weapons development. Then we will see what happened during the US-North Korea nuclear talks. And I will discuss expectations of the, the further and following US-North Korea summits, or some expectations about the North Korea's denuclearization. Okay, theoretical framework. So in the dynamics of nuclear proliferation, in my view, and in other experts' view, there are generally three phases. During the phase one, during the phase one, states are deciding nuclear development or nuclear proliferation, and there are two factors. One is from external environment, other factors from internal domestic environment. What could be external factors in developing nuclear weapons? Any answers from students?
For example, South Korea increase in conventional weapon development.
Are you Yves?
I'm sorry.
Can you identify yourself?
My name is He.
I cannot see you.
Yeah, this
Sorry?
is He. Hevo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So one external factor could be that in the 70s, South Korea ramped up their conventional weapon development, and that triggers North Korea to start with considering nuclear weapon proliferation.
That's great. Military balance or prevailing and perpetuating rivalry, right? What else? Any other answers? Ideas? What about allies? Why an alliances matter here?
This is James. Allies potentially could matter if an ally of one of your rivalries has nuclear capabilities.
Right.
Then them having that capability makes your ally actually pose a larger threat than just your ally's conventional military power. That's
a great idea and thought. So allies here is playing great role in proliferation dynamics. So it could be a threat to one's rivalries, or if the likelihood of allies commitment is low, then the allied country, allied state, what might initiate its nuclear weapons program. For instance, during 1970s, U.S. Signaled South Korea that U.S. forces in South Korea might leave, and that was one of the biggest motivation for South Korea in making decision to proliferate nuclear weapons. Does that make sense? So external environment and external factors mostly come from some power differences or power imbalances, and mostly some security threats of potential adversaries or from enemies. What about domestic factors here? Why states are motivated by domestic some factors when it comes to nuclear proliferation decisions?
This is Chai speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like you were mentioning earlier, that North Korea has a good abundance of natural uranium ore. So I think the fact that they have so much is one of the assets that led them to deciding to develop nuclear weapons, because I do think that's an important factor. So I think that's one reason.
Right. This is awesome. A great idea. I mean, if, for instance, North Korea, if a state has enough and very sufficient resources related to with regard to nuclear development, or that state has very developed technology, then costs for developing nuclear weapons might be lower than other states and might be more incentivized to develop their nuclear program weapons or other. That this is a great point, Chai. Other thoughts?
This is Lorenzo. Another option might be a question of image. When you have a regime, probably having weapons can strengthen the idea of power.
Right. Power or prestige or sense of grandeur. Like France in 1950s and 60s, actually UK and France were marginalized during the Suez crisis in 1956. That's right, Michael? 54 right. Or 56?
56.
56.
Yes.
And right, France. The French forces were like encircled and almost devastated in Dien Bien Phu battle. The battle of there was a 54.
That was 54. Yes.
54. There was January to March 54. Actually, I went to Dien Bien Phu to see the battle places, and that's the big concern for French national pride and became one of the main motivation, main incentive why French decided to develop their nuclear weapons. This is great. So let's summarize. So there are two motivating factors, one from external environment, one from internal environment. Mostly external environment means that there are some security threats or military imbalances. And from internal, related to some technology, resources, or political motivations. So with those reasons, states are making their nuclear proliferation decisions. And that decision is made during the phase 1. In the phase 2, a state, a country, and by the way, in political science or international relations, we call countries as a state. So that's a more general way of calling some countries. So I may use a country or state. So in phase 2, a country would actually operate their nuclear weapons program. So during this phase, nuclear weapons development is really happening. So they are building like reactors, they are building uranium enrichment facilities, building plutonium reprocessing facilities, and conducting some tests to test the nuclear warheads or nuclear missiles. That's phase 2. In the phase 3, nuclear weapons are developed. Then that state, that country actually deploys nuclear weapons to use it in diplomatic arena or using the battlefield. So that's the phase 3. So during this phase, a state actually possesses nuclear weapons, and those weapons are deployed to be used in the real world, in the real situation. The final dynamics is the nuclear spillover. So for instance, North Korea already, suppose that North Korea already deployed their nuclear forces, then such nuclear forces pressure South Korea or Japan to think about their own nuclear weapons. So nuclear spillover occurs during the phase 3. So this is a general dynamics of nuclear proliferation. The reason why I'm saying here is that during Kim Il-sung era of North Korea was in the phase 1. That means during grandfather of Kim Jong-un, his grandfather's time, North Korea made a decision to develop nuclear weapons. And Kim Jong-il, the father of Kim Jong-un, the current leader, North Korea was in the phase 2. During this time, North Korea actually promoted their nuclear weapons program, and it was relatively successful. And finally, Kim Jong-un era, the current leader, North Korea is in the phase 3. That means North Korea completed their nuclear weapons program. Then North Korea is deploying their nuclear forces to use them in the real world, in the real situation. So this is my argument, and I will explain the history of North Korea's nuclear weapons development based on this theoretical framework. Any questions so far? No? Let's move on. Okay, Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung is the father of Kim Jong-un. He founded North Korea, and he fought for China against Japan in 1940s. Then he went to Soviet Union and became a Soviet Red Army captain. Then after 1945, when Japan surrendered, and the Stalin sent him to North Korea to make him the leader of North Korea. So this is very simple and little background of Kim Il-sung. And in 1950, there was a Korean War between North Korea and South Korea. North Korea was about to win the war. However, because of United Nations forces and the United States, Kim Il-sung failed to reunify the two Koreas. So after that, two US divisions stationed in South Korea. Later, 7th Division left South Korea. But anyway, those are US forces, and the South Korean forces were biggest and existential threat for North Korea. However, during this time, Soviet Union backed North Korean security and assisted with military weapons and gave some economic aid. And North Korea had a relatively good situation with China. Later, North Korea has some disputes with China, but anyway, overall relationship with the Soviet Union and China was good. So Soviet Union and China mostly curtailed North Korea's motivation for nuclear proliferation, although there were threats from United States and South Korea.
Mansuk, I have a question. This is Carl.
Yes, sir.
Go back to that slide.
Mm-hmm.
I can see maybe the Soviet disenchantment with North Korea, but what does it mean that they gave them negative aid? Did they take money from the DPRK, or did the North Koreans support the Soviet Union at that time? Look at 87, 88, 89. What's going on there?
So that's correct. Soviet Union took money from North Korea. So Soviet Union gave money with a form of aid to North Korea before 1985, and before 1979, the amount of the money was much bigger than this time. But anyway, when Brezhnev died in 1980s, and later Andropov and Shevchenko became the premier of Soviet Union. However, when Gorbachev became the premier of the Soviet Union, he thought that some unilateral Soviet aid to North Korea was not correct. So Gorbachev demanded North Korea to pay back some aid and some loans from North Korea.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It was great questions. Actually, nobody has asked me about this. Okay. However, later in 1980s, something changed, and the 1980s, 1990s. Inside North Korea, Kim Il-sung needed to transfer his power to his son, Kim Jong-il. So during this process, North Korea developed their own ideology, which is Juche ideology. That means North Korea must be with Kim family's guidance, and with that guidance, North Korea would decolonize South Korea from imperial American power influence. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, that's North Korea's ideology, and this is totally different from Marxist-Leninist idea. This is North Korea's very nationalistic and motivated by some anti-colonialism, some idea. So domestically, North Korea generated and articulated their own ideology, which focusing on like self-reliance. That's one change. And internationally, Soviet Union collapsed suddenly, December 1991, and the Cold War ended in 1989 at the Malta Island between Gorbachev and Bush. So North Korea was facing decreased communist support. During this time, I don't know why, actually, but anyway, North Korea began to build their own nuclear complex from 1979. So that is named the Yeonbyeon Nuclear Complex. So with these backgrounds, North Korea's first nuclear crisis began in early 90s. So in 1992, although in 1992, North Korea and South Korea made an agreement of denuclearizing Korean Peninsula, and the President Bush actually withdrew all U.S. tactical nuclear weapons from Korean Peninsula. But anyway, situation was getting worse for North Korea, and from 1993, North Korea worsened the situation and generated the first nuclear crisis. Then we will move on to Kim Jong-il era, the father of Kim Jong-un, the current leader. So in 1994, Kim Il-sung died suddenly. He passed away because of heart attack. And actually, nobody knows what's the exact reason. But anyway, he passed away. Then Kim Jong-il succeeded Kim Il-sung. He becoming a new leader of North Korea. As soon as he became the leadership of North Korea, then he followed the 1994 agreed framework, which was made between the United States and North Korea. And the agreement said that the international community will serve North Korea with 500,000 tons of heavy oil every year. And the international community would build 2 light oil reactors in North Korea. However, the international community's support was unreliable, became unreliable. And actually there was a organization which was to support the agreement named KEDO, Korean Energy Development Organization. However, the US Congress, led by Gingrich, opposed to serve with that international organization. So anyway, the international community support to North Korea, like some became more some defunct actually, and North Korea concurrently faced some domestic economic crisis in the late 1990s. So during this time, 3 million North Koreans died from famine. And as you can see, the food supply way below than to demand, food demand, almost 2/3 of demand. And the military imbalance between North Korea and South Korea was getting broad. So it was North Korea's decision to resume their nuclear weapons project.
Imansu?
So, yeah.
This is he again. If you go back to that slide, do you know what is the exact reason for the shortage in food supply? Is that because of the land or the technology is not sufficient enough?
First, that was because of the flood in 1990, might be 1996. There was a big flood, and also North Korea's North Korea didn't have much technology to increase their agricultural production. Third reason was because of some political system. North Korea had a communist pre-planned economic system, and under the system, there was no right to possess own property. So farmers were demotivated about making more productions, more food productions. So efficiency efficiency was much lower than South Korea and other Western countries. Make sense?
I see. Thank you.
Yeah. So all the regions were like working together to make certain situation. So anyway, North Korea resumed their nuclear weapons program, and Kim Jong-il focused on nuclear uranium management. And where North Korea got such a nuclear uranium management program and facilities, and Dr. Khan, with his interview with the Washington Post, he admitted that he transferred gas centrifuge and the uranium management design to North Korea. And Dr. Hacker visited the Yongbyon complex in 2010, and he witnessed the large scale of uranium management facility in North Korea. He said that there might be more than 2,000, centrifuge, the unit, and North Korea also conducted missile tests. From 1998, North Korea launched Taepodong-1 missile, which flew over Japanese island. And in 2006, North Korea conducted the first nuclear test. In 2009, North Korea conducted a second nuclear test under Kim Jong-il's leadership. So the international community responded to North Korea's nuclear proliferation efforts. In supply side, the international community tried to block the flow of technology and materials on the high sea and international arena. So one of the effort was Proliferation Security Initiative (PSI) and freezing nuclear. And the international community also sent IAEA inspectors to North Korea to monitor its whether North Korea is complying with some agreement. Oh, I missed this thing. So from 2003, international community formed 6-party talks, and through the framework, the international community wanted to and tried to persuade North Korea to comply with the international non-proliferation principles. On the demand side, the international community made efforts through 6-party talks, and the United States and the United Nations also imposed the sanctions on North Korea. And one painstaking memory for North Korea is the freezing North Korean money in Bangko Delta Asia Bank in Malaysia. So with all these efforts, however, the international community actually failed to demotivate and to terminate North Korea's nuclear program. So now I'm moving to Kim Jong-un's time. And any questions so far? No? Okay. It was December 2011. I was a company commander in Korean Army. Somebody told me that Kim Jong-il died. So I thought that he's in. I mean, that guy was saying some jokes to me, but it was really sudden. And Kim Jong-un became the new leader of North Korea. During that time, nobody knew about Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong was a pretty new guy and unknown guy. He spent his younger times in Switzerland, and he showed up in the media from about 2008 and 2009. He was pretty young, in my age. He's now 36 years old, but he's very his health is not good, as we know, and he has some diabetes and heart problems, as well as he has some problems in his ankles. So anyway, it was very surprising, and people in government, people in military, especially Joint Chief of Staff. Later, I joined the Joint Chief of Staff, and the people thought that Kim Jong-un's North Korea would collapse sooner or later, and because he didn't have a very fundamental and very strong political background and political leadership inside North Korea. So some people also expected there will be some coup d'etat inside North Korea under Kim Jong-un's leadership. And all these expectations were like revealed as a exaggeration. And Kim Jong-un, right after became the president of North Korea, the leader of North Korea, he purged his uncle. This is an important event for North Korea because his uncle Jang Song-taek, he had the connection with China, and he was in charge of North Korea's businesses with regard to China, and he was managing the coal export and natural resources export. So many people followed him, and Kim Jong-un actually consolidated his political power inside North Korea through purging his uncle. But anyway, it was very striking and surprising event for Kim Jong-un. After purging his uncle and after purging several military generals, Kim Jong-un consolidated his political power inside North Korea. Then he resumed nuclear weapons development. And such a development made North Korea have a very bad relationship with China, South Korea, Japan, and the United States, especially with China, because Kim Jong-un killed his uncle, and also Kim Jong also killed his brother. Those people were under Chinese protection, but that's the main reason why Kim Jong-un began to have a very bad relationship with China. However, surrounding states did not want North Korea's collapse, so those countries were reluctant in pushing North Korea to move a certain direction. At the meantime, North Korea kept developing nuclear weapons. In 2013, North Korea tested nuclear weapons. In 2016, North Korea did two tests. And in 2016, North Korea tested the SLBM, which is in the picture, right? And North Korea also launched the satellite. And North Korea declared that we are possessing nuclear weapons, and we deployed our own nuclear weapons. So this is the picture of North Korea's SLBM, and people in South Korea thought that North Korea imported some design from Russia. So because this SLBM looks like a Russian SLBM design. We'll talk this later. Oh, sorry. So some critical moment was 2017. North Korea conducted the strongest nuclear test. The yield was estimated to be like between 100 kiloton to 250 kiloton based on some equations. And North Korea also tested 2 ICBMs in 2017. One is a Hwasong 14, another one is a Hwasong 15. Those 2 ICBMs were estimated to have more than 10,000 kilometer of range. And after that, Kim Jong-un said, "We'll not develop, test, transfer, and use any nuclear weapons." And North Korea became, maybe Kim Jong-un thought that North Korea became the de facto nuclear weapons state. So this is the model of 2017 nuclear test, which was the biggest yield, which had biggest yield. And it looks like a 2-stage fusion bomb. So in the first stage, there is a boosted fusion explosion. Then the first explosion makes the fusion reaction in the second stage. So this is from my working paper. Nuclear capability consists of 2 capabilities, sub-capabilities. One is nuclear warhead capability. The other one is missile capability. So this is some logic map of North Korea's nuclear development. So North Korea began to operate its uranium mining and uranium fabrication facilities from 1970s. We estimate that it's 1979. Also, UF6 conversion facility. Then in this way, then also North Korea built 5 megawatt graphite reactor in 1979. Then it went to critical from 1986. Where North Korea got the design of the 5 megawatt graphite reactor, North Korea assessed IAEA library from 1960s, 70s. Then North Korea followed Calder Hall design from which was used in Germany and which was used in Britain, UK. So North Korea built its 5 megawatt graphite reactor following Calder Hall design reactor. From there, North Korea made plutonium, and this way North Korea got uranium, the enriched uranium. With this way, North Korea conducted the first to third nuclear test. So first nuclear test was estimated to use plutonium. Later, North Korea might use uranium and uranium plus plutonium for its test. And later, North Korea also built a facility to extract deuterium. Then questions are here. For 4th and the 5th nuclear weapons test, some experts, some analysts in South Korea estimate that North Korea actually did boosted bomb test, boosted diffusion test for 4th and 5th. However, 4th and 5th yield was about 10 kiloton to 50 kilotons. So others are like questioning about their analysis. I really want to hear Dr. Bieber's idea here. How do you think about this, Professor Bieber?
I'm not close enough to the facts to well. Well, I also have to be very careful what I say. But boosting is not necessarily is something that they could not have done. But going to the next step of the two-stage thermonuclear test and to do so successfully was, I think, surprising to many people.
Right.
That's a very sophisticated device.
Right, right. So North Korea said that we tested, in 2017, we tested the two-stage thermonuclear bomb, and it is their official announcement about their types of nuclear bomb, which they tested in 2017. But anyway, the yield was between 100 to 250 kiloton. So North Korea's announcement sounds like a feasible and reasonable. But anyway, we cannot be sure about the types and and machineries of North Korea's nuclear bombs. So that's a nuclear warhead story. And another story is nuclear missiles. So from 1970s, North Korea imported some Scud missiles from Soviet Union. They did reverse engineered Scud missiles. Then early 1990s, North Korea tested the Nodong missile, and North Korea actually exported the Nodong missiles to Iran and other Middle East countries. And based on Nodong missile, North Korea launched Una rocket 4 times from 1998 to 2017. This Una rocket became the base model of North Korea's ICBMs. From Una rocket, North Korea developed KN-08, Hwasong 12, 14, 15 variants, and especially Hwasong 14 and 15 are estimated to can flow like more than 10,000 kilometers and could reach the mainland of the United States. And from this, North Korea might want to develop, possess IRBM and ICBM capability. And after Soviet Union collapse, some Soviet scientists came to North Korea, and some said that these scientists transferred the technologies for this Una rocket. And also these scientists also transferred technology for Scud-ER, extended range. And that design became the basis for Musuda missile. And North Korea tested the Musuda missile in 2016. And based on that, North Korea developed the Bukgoksong missile, which is named the KN-26, and this became one of the North Korea's 3 triads, which is SLBM. Scud-ER became the basis for KN-23, which is also looks like an Iskandar missile of Soviet Union, the Russia. Here are some very questioning, some note here. So it is known that North Korea hacked Russian military industry and South Korean military industry from early 2010s, like 2014 one time, 2016 one time. And by hacking Russian military industry, North Korea might, got the design for Iskandar. That's one possible pathway. We don't know. We cannot be sure, but we are postulating about how North Korea could get such an high technologies. That's the one way. And another way is North Korea actually bought the design, and Russia actually transferred the design for Iskandar. So somehow North Korea could develop KN-23 Iskandar, and North Korea tested Iskandar in 2019, last year. And North Korea also hacked South Korean military industries, and allegedly North Korea got some design of a 3,000-ton submarine, and North Korea tested a submarine missile launch several times, and from there, plus KN-26, North Korea might complete its SLBM capability. And from KN-23 Iskandar, North Korea could get SRBM, short-range ballistic missile capability. So these three are North Korea's their own indigenous triad. So with SRBM, North Korea could deter South Korea and Japan. With SLBM, North Korea could prevent U.S. threats and South Korean security threats. With IRBM, intermediate range ballistic missiles and the intercontinental ballistic missiles, North Korea could balance against the U.S. forces. So this is the map of North Korea's nuclear development from 1970s. Any questions here? No? Let's move on. This chart is from KAIDA, Korean Institute for Defense Analysis, and they analyzed the pictures of North Korea's missiles, and they estimated what type of warhead could be carried with what certain type of, which kind of North Korea's nuclear missiles. Any questions here? So by developing nuclear warheads and nuclear missiles, now North Korea could target any regions in the world above this red line. So this is the United States, and this is San Francisco we are living. This is Berkeley. Am I right? This is San Diego. It might be this is LA. My point here is now North Korea becomes a direct threat and a serious threat to the United States. And the United States needs to deal with North Korea's nuclear problem more seriously. Andrew said, why target Berkeley? Okay, let me erase Berkeley. Yeah. Oh, I can erase. Anyway. So here my point. During the phase one, during the Kim Il-sung era, North Korea decided to develop nuclear weapons because of external factors like a US threat and decreasing alliance support from like a Soviet Union's aid and the Chinese support, and internal factors like power transition to his son Kim Jong-il, and North Korea's development of its own indigenous ideology, which is a Juche ideology, and because of wavering some domestic political background. And during the phase two, under Kim Jong-il's leadership, North Korea actually developed its nuclear weapons, began to develop its nuclear weapons. North Korea began to enrich uranium, which technology transferred from Dr. Khan's network. And North Korea tested first, second, and third nuclear weapons, warheads. And North Korea also tested the nuclear missiles. And during the phase three, Kim Jong-un's time, North Korea completed its nuclear power, nuclear weapons, then North Korea is deploying and is beginning to deploy its nuclear forces, nuclear weapons, to be used in the real time. Okay, so this is my understanding of the history of North Korea's nuclear development. Any questions so far? No? Then let's move on. How the United States responded to North Korea's nuclear threat, which became the real and direct threat. Yep.
Mansuk, a question, and
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether this came up earlier in your talk, but I seem to recall a report that 2006 was a critical year because they somehow, I think they hacked into the South Korean armed forces network and actually found plans for, hypothetical, presumably, for a conflict that, for a regime change in North Korea, which of course would be very threatening. Is there any substance to that, or is it hypothesis, or is it wrong, or what? I'm not saying you did it personally.
Frankly speaking, I didn't know about this, and I don't know. I don't have information about that, and probably I needed to look into more. But North Korea actually hacked South Korean networks a couple of times. North Korea actually hacked the Department of Defense, hacked the military industries, also hacked like a South Korean Lawrence Gilbert National Lab, which is ADD. And North Korea got some military plans and blueprints for high-end weapons. So it is not surprising that if you said North Korea hacked into South Korean armed forces in 2006, and very likely, I think. But I don't have any information about this. I didn't know that. Is that right answer, sir?
Thank you. All right, perhaps Professor Nacht has something to add here, but if not, we can just move on.
No, I don't really. I mean, I know of some of the North Korean cyber attacks in the time frame you're talking about, Professor Van Bibber. But I think, you know, toward the end of the Bush administration, I mean, he was really still more concerned with what was going on in the Middle East and in, you know, the collapse of the U.S. effort really in Iraq, which led to the change of strategy, change of policy, the firing of Rumsfeld. He was much more focused on the Middle East at that time. I do think after Kim Jong-un came into power, there was a fairly widespread view in the U.S. intelligence community that he wouldn't last, as Mansuk says, that he would be overthrown. He didn't have credentials. He wasn't being groomed for this until very recently. And it was quite a surprise that he really consolidated his power. He executed his uncle and other key officials.
Right.
And he became a strong leader. And then, of course, the summit meetings with Trump in some ways was a legitimization of his strong leadership. Now, the most recent development about his health brings all that back into question again.
Right. Okay, thank you, professors. And let's move on how U.S. responded to North Korea's nuclear threat, which became a direct and more strong threat to U.S. national security. There were some exchange of words between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. So President Trump said that Kim Jong-un was a little rocket man, and he had a real, actually working a button on his table, which is for shooting nuclear weapons against North Korea. And Kim Jong-un also said we may attack the United States if the United States keep like bullying us. So in 2017, when the tensions were high, the United States sent 3 aircraft carriers to near North Korean Sea, and there were false alarms in Hawaii and Japan. But suddenly in 2018, President Moon Jae-in in South Korea, he invited the sister of Kim Jong-un, Kim Yo-jong, who was standing here. Can you see this? And there was also Mike Pence here, very close, very uncomfortable. So from 2018, so atmosphere changed abruptly and very rapidly. So, and 2018, President Moon met Kim Jong-un, and they shared some very warm time at the Panmunjom. And in 2018, it was June 2018, President Donald Trump met Kim Jong-un at Singapore. And both sides promised to denuclearize North Korea and the Korean Peninsula. And then there was a second North Korean US summit in Hanoi. However, before the Hanoi summit, there were some intelligence warning from international intelligence community of the United States. So US intelligence community warned that North Korea's activities looked like inconsistent with a full denuclearization. And Kim Jong-un also said at the Politburo, he said nuclear weapons are critical for North Korea's regime survival. At the summit, North Korea offered a formal moratorium on ICBMs and nuclear testing, and they said we're gonna dismantle Yongbyon area, Yongbyon nuclear complex. However, North Korea did not include covert sites, and in exchange for that, North Korea demanded the lifting of partial sanctions, including petroleum, iron, coal, and overseas labor. In the meantime, North Korea described that Yongbyon as the first stage of the process. However, the United States side, they think Yongbyon is only a limited concession, and actually it was an aging, and it makes up some percentage of North Korea's enrichment capacity. And North Korea must include the ballistic missile program and its chemical and biological weapons program, unless there will be no sanction relief, no sanction lifting. And if the United States lift, sorry? Excuse me? Yeah. If the United States lift the sanction, then that means that might mean that the United States was subsidizing North Korea's WMD program, ongoing development of nuclear weapons. So deal was broken. However, the same year, Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump met again at the Panmunjom, but there was no progress, and working groups were met at Stockholm, Sweden, but also no progress there. So why was the deal broken? Why was the negotiation broken? There are 3 mismatches. One is aiming problem. The aiming, this means that 2 sides, North Korea and the United States, are having some different definition of denuclearization. For North Korea, denuclearization means denuclearization of Korean Peninsula. That means US forces must leave South Korea. US must lift its nuclear extended deterrence to South Korea. the denuclearization of US and South Korea means denuclearization of North Korea. That means North Korea needs to, dismantle, terminate all its nuclear weapons program. So two sides have two different definitions of denuclearization. Second problem is a scoping problem. That means what are subjects to the denuclearization? North Korea thinks that Yongbyon is fine, it's enough. Yongbyon, that's a North Korea's scope of denuclearization. But the United States sees the whole facilities and programs with regard to North Korea's nuclear weapons program, weapons development. Third problem is timing problem, timing mismatch. So North Korea says US moves first. US first lift sanctions, ease sanctions imposed on North Korea. But US is saying that North Korea needs to move first. North Korea first dismantle its nuclear-related programs and facilities. So because of these three mismatches, the deal between the United States and North Korea were broken, failed, and the situation is still going on. Okay, now I'm going to now I want to hear some thoughts and discuss some the following situation. Maybe I would make some expectations about the future. So known knowns. North Korea's economic crisis. Nowadays, these days, North Korea has an all-time bad economic situation, and especially because of COVID-19. North Korea is blocking all the trade with China, and North Korea is running out of dollars because of US sanctions. This is the problem, because North Korea now has a limited form of capitalism. North Korea is acknowledging the private possession of properties, market, and pursuit of profit in economic activities. And North Korea's economy is divided into two groups, like elite economy and normal people's economy. And the problem is elite. They needed to be patronized. They needed to be supported by Kim Jong-un with money. But now Kim Jong-un is running out of dollars. Now he is less capable of supporting his elite, his followers, with money. So, in other words, Kim Jong-un is losing his power nowadays. And North Korea has no FDI, foreign direct investment, and one of the biggest source of North Korea's money making was smuggling. However, these days, because of sanctions and satellite surveillance and COVID-19, smuggling activities are shrinking. One of the big concern for us is that North Korea is hacking cryptocurrency, like where is that? I'm sorry, I lost them. Yeah. Bitcoin, yeah. Right, Andrew, thank you. So recently, North Korea hacked Bitcoin exchange company, and North Korea got about several $1 million from there. And North Korea is managing, and North Korea is trading cryptocurrencies these days. And North Korea invited the inventor of Ethereum last year. And so North Korea has a great interest in trading cryptocurrencies these days. So this is a new source of money making for North Korea. The United States will have the presidential election this year, and that's a big factor, and some situation with regard to North Korea's denuclearization business. And another very important factor here is that One-Beer Act. So North Korea needs to pay $500 million to One-Beer's family. And so this could be the motivation for the U.S. government, and when it takes a more hard line toward North Korea. South Korea, the government is very nationalistic, and it is promoting cooperation with North Korea. China, because of some strategic reasons, China is supporting North Korea and sending some oil, crude oil, and dollars to North Korea nowadays. So I want to discuss these 5 questions, but we have just 5 minutes. So will sanctions hurt North Korean elites and their cohesion? Will North Korea restart nuclear and missile tests? South Korean credibility of U.S. commitment, effect of COVID-19, South Korea's Reagan moment. That means South Korea would take more, strategic moment to collapse North Korea. So these 5 questions are, some big questions these days when it comes to North Korea's denuclearization and unification of two Koreas. I'm not going to answer those 5 questions, but I would let you think about these questions, and I want to finish my presentation here, and Michael might have some comments on this. Professor Knock, do you have some comments here?
Well, in the 5 minutes, I think maybe we should just leave it to students' questions and comments. Otherwise, I could add a couple of things, but you've basically covered everything. Any questions or comments from the students? James?
Yeah, I was just wondering, this is James. I was just wondering if you could comment at all about your thoughts about if Kim Yo-jong were to take power after, if anything were to happen to Kim Jong-un, as is being discussed. Do you think this would change their nuclear posture or anything?
This is a tricky question, and there are 2 major factors. Actually, one. That is a Chinese intervention in North Korea's domestic politics. If China intervenes in North Korea's domestic politics, North Korea is more likely give up its nuclear weapons. But if not, Kim Yo-jong would not give up nuclear weapons, in my view, because Kim Yo-jong, Kim Jong-un, everyone, their power is legitimized by Kim family's heritage, Kim family's overarching some ideology, which is Juche and nuclear policy. So if Kim Jong-un or Kim Yo-jong gives up their nuclear weapons and gives up its overarching ideology, which is Juche ideology, then they will lose their legitimacy, and they might face some political turmoil in domestic politics. Professor Knock, do you have any answers to here?
Yeah, well,
this question?
I agree with you. I think it seems not very plausible that any new North Korean leader who replaces Kim Jong-un is likely to want to get rid of their nuclear weapons for exactly the reason you say. It really is so valuable to them. It legitimizes the regime. It deters what they consider is a serious threat from the United States and North Korea. It garners more support from the military for the civilian leadership. So it's very valuable. I just don't see anything that the US or others could provide that would lead them to go in a totally different change of direction. Now, you never know. And maybe the economic situation will become so dire, so severe, that they might be willing to trade at least some of their weapons for reduction in sanctions. I also think now with the virus situation dominating everything in all the national capitals, that it's unlikely we'll see any major change, even if Kim Jong-un disappears in the next month or two. I don't see any initiative on the part of Trump until the election resolves things. So I do want to just add that you mentioned this, but I just want to emphasize that from an American national security perspective, the Korean issue is critically important in and of itself. It's important as a huge non-proliferation problem. It's an issue in the maintenance of the security of South Korea, where we have a treaty of commitments, but also it's very important in managing relations with China, and in also making sure that Japan stays within an allied relationship with the United States. So there's a lot of issues here that the U.S. is balancing. And I would think, Trump tried something new. It was quite different. Personal relationships with the North Korean leader, visiting North Korea. This had not been done before. But I think at the end of the day, we're still right where we started, with the North Korean nuclear deterrent and no obvious path forward.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about that summation? This is James again. So I guess one question I've kept coming back to, especially in light of our simulation we did the other day, is how, besides the risk of South Korea and Japan nuclearizing in response to North Korea's nuclear weapons, how is the situation with North Korea possessing nuclear weapons different than, say, India and Pakistan, where we've since alleviated our sanctions and resounded our ourselves to the fact that they're going to continue having nuclear weapons?
So as to South Korea's nuclearization and South Korea's development of nuclear weapons, I think the likelihood is really low. I mean, if you understand the South Korea's economic system, which is an open economy, South Korea needs to give up most of the things. I mean, export makes up about 50% of South Korea's GDP, and South Korea needs to expect heavy sanctions from international community if it goes nuclear. And nuclear energy makes up around 40% of South Korea's energy production. And if it goes nuclear, South Korea needs to expect loss of nuclear fuel import. So that's a disaster. South Korea needs to give up everything if you want to, develop nuclear weapons. Michael?
Yeah, I would just add that I don't think it's a very apt analogy. I mean, Northeast Asia, South Korea, Japan, relations with China, that's a premier U.S. national security priority, together with NATO and protecting against Russian aggression. They're the top two, by far, national security priorities for the United States. South Asia, India and Pakistan, very important, but really at a much lower level of priority. No likelihood of U.S. military engagement in that part of the world. No security agreements with India or Pakistan. Yes, good ties, complex relations, get into counterterrorism. Many issues, improve relations with India as a balancer of China. Lots of stuff, but it's at a lower level of priority. So, and I think that if North Korea were seen to be successful in refuting U.S. efforts to denuclearize them, or if the U.S. is seen as weak or Mansuk didn't mention, if Trump persists on this $5 billion payment for U.S. forces in Korea, if it leads to a collapse of the U.S.-South Korean agreement, if there's any weakening of the U.S. as a guarantor of its allies, this could have repercussions throughout the world, which is not at all relevant to India and Pakistan, where we don't have any clear security commitments.
Great. Thank you.
And Mansuk, I have one question.
Okay. Now it is I'm sorry, 3:32. So how about this, sir? So students, if you have any other schedule, you can leave now. And if you have questions, you can remain here and ask me some questions.
Maybe take
Professor, is this okay?
So I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So you mentioned that North Korea have the elite economy and also the people economy. Does a division in the two economy influence the ability to transfer to a different economic system, like the economic system of Vietnam, for example?
Mm.
Does it make it harder to do so?
That's a whole different story. I mean, that's a separate problem. So here, sorry. People's economy and the elite economy. So this began to be divided from 1996 to 1998, when North Korea's national distribution system collapsed. So especially after Kim Jong-un became the president of the leadership of the North Korea, Kim Jong-un allowed market transaction in North Korea. So the division became more clear. But here, I mean, the system means that North Korean elite and North Korean leadership is losing their control over people's economic life, and so if Kim Jong-un is also losing support from its elite group, then Kim Jong-un's political power would be weakened much severely. So this situation is not a good situation for a dictatorship country, autocratic country. But North Korea is going this way, and it reminds me like Soviet Union after 1985, when Gorbachev allowed glasnost and perestroika in Soviet Union, and Soviet Union economy divided into two parts actually after 1946. Michael, do you have comments here, sir?
No, that's right. I think Vietnam is a somewhat unique case. I mean, it's a Communist Party-led political system with a very entrepreneurial capitalist economy. In that way, it's a little bit like China on a much smaller scale. But I don't think North Korea has the ability to emulate the Vietnamese model.
Right.
Thank you.
So North Korea actually has a dilemma that North Korea cannot accept U.S. suggestions, offers. That means one time the United States offered North Korea opening of its economy and supporting more financial aid. But the problem is that once North Korea opens its economy to the foreign direct investment or foreign companies, then North Korean society will collapse very rapidly. So, however, if North Korea did not get the foreign aid and the U.S. support, then in the medium term or long term, North Korean regime is also likely collapse. because of some, illogic economy and very, scattering and very fragile political ground.
Right. I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, the nuclear proliferation in North Korea was heavily motivated by the inability to compete with conventional weapons with South Korea, and also the weak economy of North Korea. So would addressing the economic issue in North Korea with the support from different countries would eventually address the problem of nuclear proliferation?
That's tricky. I mean, I'm not saying that North Korea is primarily and heavily motivated by the power discrepancy vis-a-vis South Korea. North Korea is also motivated by internal logics. I mean, North Korea's nuclear weapons are, playing as a role as a legitimacy for its regime. So even if there is no military imbalance between South Korea and North Korea might not give up its nuclear weapons because of domestic political reasons. So this is a very complicated problem, and this is not a single term equation, but we must consider both external regions and internal regions of North Korea's proliferation. Perhaps not. Can you correct me?
I agree completely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, then I'm going to end my presentation here.
Thank you, Mansuk. That was a terrific presentation.
Right, I agree. So
Thank you, Mansuk.
So on Monday, we have a final session where the students are preparing for the project presentation in May. And I don't know if there's any additional advice on how to structure that. Austin and Mansuk can send that out beforehand.
We'll send out a B courses announcement.
Great. That's on Monday, the 27th. And then Wednesday, the 29th, is the final class where Professor Van Bibberdy will offer some final remarks about nuclear security, and will allow time for the course student evaluation in the last 15 minutes. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you all very much. Thank you so much, Mansuk. Great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.